Welcome back. Now we will go through section 2, which is about an all-pervading feeling of health and fullness and ecstasy. While creeds and schools in the first section are to be stayed away from, the second section warns us of alluring perfumes. So we are told that we have to stay away from the impact of schools and creeds. Also at the same time, the poet warns us against alluring perfumes. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes, but the poet shall not let the fragrance intoxicate him. Here the poet distinguishes between the temporal world, the world of the houses and rooms, and the world of pure nature when he speaks of the atmosphere which has no taste of the distillation and is hence odorless. So there is a clear distinction between the mundane material world and the vast macrocosmic world of the nature. Nature is all pure. It does not have any smell of any distillation. You may have perfumes, you may have different scents and smells in your house or in your surrounding where you are living, or you may be using, but in nature is without any smell, without any scent. It is odorless. It is this purity in odorlessness that the poet seeks. So what he wants to get, he wants to achieve at that purity, and hence to observe it he speaks of his yearning to become undisguised and naked. If needed for that, he will be absolutely without any disguise. He will shed all the false appearances, all the masks. He will be completely down to earth. He will be completely a man in the lap of nature. In this section, there is a certain sense of anticipation. There is also the sense of touch. You will find in some different images. And the sense of light or vision is also emphasized here in different images. And nature without check with original energy that we came across in section 1, it finds an elaboration in the imaginative musings of this section 2. What actually is nature without check with original energy, that is explained more elaborately in this section. While in section 1 Whitman makes a distinction between his self and his ego by inviting his soul, in section 2 he works out yet another distinction, the world of nature and the world of humans. So here there is a distinction between the world of nature and the world of humans. World of humans is transitory, or it cannot give contentment to the poet, or it cannot be fulfilling, and a fulfilling experience can be had. He can have this only in the lap of nature. So there is a difference between the world of humans and the world of nature. The world of nature is to be the setting of his journey, while houses, rooms, clothes and all such man-made tokens are to be given up, at least for the time being. As we saw in the first section, he thinks that creeds and schools must be kept in abeyance. Here also he talks about different mundane things like houses, rooms, clothes, and all these man-made things, they must be given up, at least for the time being, so that he might not become intoxicated by the perfume of human life. So to undertake a spiritual journey, one has to be really free from the mundane preoccupations. One has to be really free from the impact of his material belongings, material life. It is amid nature that the truth of all great human thoughts which the poet denotes as poetry can be realized. According to him, poetry is all about the great human thoughts, and that can be realized, the great human thoughts can be realized only in the purity or in the serene atmosphere of nature. And all this realization comes with the individual will to be part of nature. And he realizes that all knowledge which constitute the very fabric of poetry, they come from nowhere other than nature itself. Nature is the source of all knowledge. And here the emphasis is on individual experience to realize the unpolluted essence of life. And in a close relationship with nature, one can have this experience. He can realize the unpolluted essence of life. Otherwise, in your mundane world, you cannot enjoy it, or you cannot have the unpolluted, essence of life that can only be gained in association with nature. Now let us look at the poem and try to understand the poem line by line. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes, and shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. Let us discuss these lines. Houses and rooms are full of perfumes. Everywhere there are perfumes. Shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. So here there is not any abhorrence. The poet does not abhor. He does not hate the perfumes. He can recognize them. He can even, appreciate them. He likes it. The distillation would intoxicate me also. The distillation means the perfume which is made out of distillation. It can intoxicate him also. It is very natural that he will be attracted towards a nice perfume, but I shall not let it, but he will not let it intoxicate him. So here there is a distinct intention that he will be very much in the world, but he will not be involved in the world. He will not dislike the perfumes. Of course he will like it, but he will not be intoxicated by the fume of perfumes, by the scent. So here society, perfumes metaphorically may mean society crowded with influences and derived ideas. We have many influences and derived ideas which appear very attractive, and sometimes they appear very intoxicating also. And if we are attracted, then we are not going to have any original individual experience. So for a very authentic individual experience, one has to be free from all these influences. So perfume metaphorically may mean the worldly influence. And he says that he will not allow the perfumes to intoxicate him. That means to undertake a spiritual journey, he will be free from all the earthly impacts, influences. Look at the next lines. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth. Forever I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. So here there is a contrast between the perfumes of our day-to-day lives and the vast, expanse of nature. And here what happens, atmosphere is not a perfume. See, perfume can be felt, you can feel or smell perfume in a limited environment, in a room or in a limited surrounding. But atmosphere, which is the bigger environment, there it is absolutely odorless. It does not have any taste of distillation. It is absolutely without any smell. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. He is in love with the atmosphere. He is not so much in love with the perfumes. Even though he does not hate the perfumes, he does not want to be intoxicated by the fume of perfumes. For him, what is more important is the atmosphere, which is odorless, which is without any scent or smell. That is what he loves. I will go to the bank of the wood, go to the bank by the wood. So he will go to some river bank by the wood. So here you can find there is a desire to, be in a close contact with nature, just like the great romantics of English poetry. You will find poets like Wordsworth, Coleridge, Shelley, Keats. They have also expressed an intense desire to go into the lap of nature, to feel the peace of mind, to have the peace of mind. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. So he wants to be undisguised and naked. What does it mean? That means he wants to shed, he wants to drop all the false identities. As long as you have different false identities, as long as you identify yourself with the different masks that we wear in our daily life, as long as you are a man in this world, you cannot have the real freedom. So you have to drop all your false disguise and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. He is mad. You see the urge. You see the desire, the tremendous urge of the poet to be at one with nature. The smoke of my own breath echoes, repels, buzzed, whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch and vine, my respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the snip of the green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark-colored sea rocks, and of hay in barn, the sound of the belched words of my voice, loose to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, a play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wags. The delight alone, or in the rush of the streets, or along the fields and hillsides, the feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and beating the sun. See, here you have different images of smell and touch that you can find, in this poem, in these lines. So here what happens? The speaker looks ahead to a revealing of the body in its surroundings. The body's experience with nature sets off the first set of catalogues. There is a hint of sexuality pervading natural objects as well as the body. His sensation would follow the motion of inhalation and exhalation. So the sensation of the poet, as he will go for a very close rapport with nature, will be just like the respiration and inspiration. It will be just like the process of inhalation and exhalation. The poet celebrates the things in nature as he identifies them. Numerous manifestations of the activated atmosphere are summoned as a spirited breath runs through material forms, sound waves, ripples of wind on water. So, different objects of the world, different objects of nature, they appear attractive, they appear very interesting. And he talks about the smoke of his own breath, echoes, ripples, buzzed whispers, love root, silk thread, crotch and vine. These are all related to your physical existence and also to the world of nature. my respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs. So he is very much a poet of body as well as of spirit. He is very much conscious of his physical existence, of the needs of his body, which is depicted in these images. Also at the same time, he is conscious, he is keen to have a spiritual experience, which is metaphysical, which is beyond body. So here the images, they speak about physical activities. The sniff of green leaves and dry leaves, and of the shore and dark colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn. So these are all relating to the different, things in nature and also certain other things made by man. The sound of the belched words, that means the words are coming out. Belch means to send out noisily. Of my voice, loose to the eddies of the wind, they are moving as if in the eddies, as if in a circular movement, as if in a whirlpool, as if in the whirlpool of, sounds, as if in the whirlpool of air. So whatever air is coming out of his mouth, whatever he is talking, that ultimately becomes a very integral part of the macrocosmic world of nature. They constitute, or they are loose to the eddies of the wind. They are mingled very much in the whirlpool of the wind. A few light kisses, a few embraces reaching around of arms, these refer to sexuality. The play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag, and there is also a reference to the play of sunshine in a tree as the boughs are, swayed in air. The delight alone or in the rush of the streets. So there is also delight when he is all alone. There is also delight in the rush of the streets. He is not that type of romantic like Wordsworth and the British romantics, those who want to go away from the din and bustle of city life. And here he talks about the rush of the streets or along the fields and hillsides, everywhere. It is not only about, feeling happy in the midst of, hills and mountains and rivers. One can also be happy in the middle of a street. The feeling of health, he can feel the feeling of health. The full noon trill, the full noon, twitter, trilling of the bird, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. So it is all about his song, how he gets up early in the morning, and how he meets the sun. How through a very close rapport with nature, he is going to have a very extraordinary experience that he is going to have. And he does not hate anything. He, just like the British romantics, they want to go away from the din and bustle of city life. They want to take shelter in the lap of nature. They behave like escapists. Just like Shelley says, "Oh, lift me as a wave, I leave a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life I bleed." He is praying the west wind to lift him as a wave, I leave a cloud. And life is a very thorny experience, very painful experience for the poet. And Keats also speaks something like that to Nightingale. Fade, far away, dissolve, I will fly to thee. Not charioted by Bacchus and his parts, but on the viewless wings of poesy. So, they all want to go away. Wordsworth wants to go away from the din and bustle, fever and fret, the exact terms used by Wordsworth, of the city life, and they want to take shelter in the lap of nature. But here, there is no dislike for anything, He knows that he can have the spiritual experience only by a very close relation with nature, by a very close relationship with nature. But the world around him is something which he does not hate or which he does not want to escape. He is equally at ease with the world around him. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres much? Have you reckoned the earth much? So here, you again may be the self is addressing to the ego, or maybe the poet is addressing to the reader, which is the American, public in general. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres? 1,000 acres referring to the land. Have you reckoned the earth much? So there is a need of reckoning the earth. There is a need of identification of the earth. We have to identify. Man has to identify himself with nature. That is the important question which he asks. Have you reckoned 1,000 acres? Have you reckoned the earth much? Have you practiced so long to learn to read? Huh? Have you practiced? Here reading does not mean reading the books. Reading the ways of nature. Has man really been able to understand nature? That is what is the question. He moves towards an identification of self with the world. The poet will show through the pattern of associations that there is a sexual vitality within all things. The individual, the social community, the landscape. So, this identification with nature and this very attempt to understand what nature is constitutes the very crux of Whitman's spiritual journey that he plans to undertake. Have you felt so proud to get at the meaning of poems? There is a sarcastic view that people say that they have understood the poems. But have they been able to really understand? Have they been able to really arrive at the meaning of poems? That means the poems which are very much meaningful, they are full of knowledge, and this knowledge we can only have that knowledge in nature. Nature is the only place where you can have all the knowledge which will be embodied in poetry. So if we think that we have understood poetry, it is not sufficient. To understand poetry, we must understand nature. Because the ideas in poetry have all come from nature. Stop this day and night with me, and you shall possess the origin of all poems. You shall possess the good of the earth and sun. There are millions of suns left. He admonishes the self, admonishes the ego, or in other words, you may say he admonishes the readers to stay with me so that the reader will possess the origin of all poems and he will possess the good of the earth and the sun. And also he notes that there are millions and millions of suns. And we should not think that we are only living in a solar system, but there are millions and millions of suns left. You shall no longer take things at second or third hand, nor look through the eyes of the dead, nor feed on the spectres in the books. You shall not look through my eyes either, nor take things from me. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. You shall not no longer take things at second or third hand. The poet is putting emphasis on gaining knowledge first hand. We should not know certain things from others. What others have realized or what others have felt or what others have understood, we should not take it for granted. So we should not rely on any second or third hand knowledge, nor look through the eyes of the dead. We should not try to understand the things by looking at the past, nor feed on the spectres in books. Spectre means ghost. Instead of accepting ideas second hand, the poet admonishes the reader to experience things first hand. So importance is giving on, not relying on the experience of other people, not relying on whatever you have learned from the books, which are called spectres, ghosts, dead spirits. importance is given on gaining knowledge firsthand through one's very close rapport with nature in a very personal, intimate level. One can have that experience. You shall not look through my eyes either. He also does not ask the reader to take things for granted, to take whatever the poet is telling to be true. Not take things from me. You shall listen to all sides. So you have to keep your eyes open, ears open, your sensory organs very open to all the beautiful experiences that you are going to have in the lap of nature. You shall listen to all sides and filter them from yourself. So you will filter everything from your own self. It is just like yourself is just like a processor. You will accumulate different ideas, different experiences, and the gist, the essence will come to you only through a process of filtration which will take place within your own self. To have the essence of life, you must have a very open mind. You must, try to understand nature, try to be at one with nature and experience everything for yourself. And from within your own self, you will realize the very essence of life. So, the importance here is about understanding nature or gaining an access to the essence of life only through direct contact, first-hand experience. And that is what is about section 2. And in the next talk, we'll be dealing with section 3. Thank you.